At least we know how that one worked. Hey guys, hey guys, hey guys. Come on up in here. Come on up in here. Come on up in here. We are super excited on today. We're doing our social work table talks a little bit early. Hopefully you guys catch the replay because I know some of you guys are doing your amazing work. I'm gonna just take a quick second to share out um, Instagram. Sorry we couldn't really bring you into it because of the echo, but maybe sometime later. Let's see. Okay, Tasha. Mm, all right. Hey guys, we are. Thank you so much. On the back end, I see Facebook user. If you can grant StreamYard access, we can see your name. If not, you can put your name in the comments. We want to be mindful of your time. I'm super excited about today's social work table talks. One of the things you're going to expect with social work table talks is conversation of substance. How do we bridge the gap between social work and the community so together we thrive? And that's what we're doing today. Today, I'm not going to delay any further, but we're going to have some conversations. It's going to be really real talk, real combos, baby, and real solutions. That's what we do over here. I am Tasha, the founder of Talk to Tasha. I get ambitious, heart centered women like you, many of you guys, to stop really working yourself to death and really start to reframe how do I show up in my post pandemic recovery plan. I'm the crazy one that try on scarf and crazy eyelashes, so don't let all of this distract you. One of the things I want to model to you, just try something different. Okay. Nobody out here tripping. Nobody out here trying to dress up to please nobody. We just out here showing up in a way that really honors your authentic self. And today, this is nothing different. It's a divine connection between the one and only Danai Angulu, who we met through a divine setup. She is a sex educator. You guys know that S word, especially if you're a spiritual being, you kind of shy away from it. I don't know why. That's just how some cultures are, but the babies keep coming. So this is a real issue. When we're talking about, the pandemic, things that came up for us, we know in our work that there's a lot of breakdowns in couples, relationships. The intimacy is not what it needs to be. You fussing and fighting with folks. And so we want to just normalize. Sometimes we need to have an expert come in and help us identify how we can show up. So without further ado, I want to introduce Denai, who is a sex educator. She is a believer, love Christ like I do. And we really want God to use us in this space, right? And to really have these authentic conversations. So go ahead, Danae, tell us a little bit about what led you to get into this work.
Well, first, as you said, I'm Christian, so since I was little girl, I learned the law of chastity, which teaches to be pure. I never had a sexual relationship before uh, uh, you got married, so I did that. So I went to my honeymoon without any knowledge at all, because I thought that knowing about sex was a sin. So, of course, it is so wrong. It shouldn't be like this, like, because intimacy and knowledge, it doesn't have to be together with ignorance. I mean, it's okay to follow the law of chastity if this is what you want, but you have to have the knowledge to really be protected. Because what I thought and my parents thought too was if I didn't have the knowledge about sex, I would be protected. But that's wrong. It's totally wrong. The more information you have, the more protected you are. So I didn't have any knowledge about sex. And I think after a year of marriage, I had a lot of questions about sex. I never thought about this topic with anyone, just my husband. And so I started to have these conversations about sex with my friends, and we all had the same questions. I was like, why we know anything about it? So I started to read books that wrote that people Christian people wrote, and this was amazing for me because I always try to look things like around Christ, around my faith. So I didn't believe that we have any of that, but yes, there's a lot of books written for Christian people to relate uh, sex and the marvelous of sex and the beauty of sex with God's love too. So that's when I started to say, okay, I wanna share this with my friends. So the first thing I did was I started to buy books. These books I read, three of them specifically, and I started to buy them and then give them up to my friends because I was like, look at this. This opened my mind. This changed my mind. This changed my sex life. So this is a gift for you. So um, all of the things I read were in English. So as you can hear, my first language is in English. I'm from Mexico, so I speak Spanish. And so I start to try to find like all this information in Spanish for my friends who doesn't speak English, but I didn't find like almost anything. So I was sad about it, but then I said, okay, let's do it. So I changed my major and I started to educate myself more deeply on sex world. So yeah, so that's why I started this path. Yeah, that's why.
Yes. Thank you so much. So one of the things that I heard you say is you went on your honeymoon as a pure woman, as some of you guys probably call it, like a virgin,
Yeah,
um,
was the virgin.
raised, yeah, so raised with some culture. Like the reason why I'm so glad that we're together is because some of the things that we're dispelling the myth about is that because we come from different cultures, different languages and backgrounds, somehow we're super different. And so this conversation really kind of affirms that we are alike in many ways. Because some of you guys that are watching the replay, you can honestly say that you were raised that the family didn't talk about sex, but the babies kept coming, or sex was viewed as something negative and bad and nasty, right? And really, it's a beautiful thing between two married folks. And so you have this whole idea of, some people are not smoochy smoochy, like kissing or showing some kind of affection in front of their kids. Even if you're cooking and it's like a smooch on the cheek or something, kids don't see that a lot. I've talked to kids and they're like, hey, I know we were born, but we don't see that level of intimacy. So I want really you to share what is intimacy and what is the myth around intimacy that you know in your work? What is intimacy?
Well, this is a really, I think, long question because intimacy, there's a lot of things. I think for me, intimacy is like go to the deepest because we have five intimacies: emotional intimacy, intellectual intimacy, spiritual intimacy, physical intimacy, and sexual intimacy. So usually people come with me because they have sexual intimacy problems.
Okay.
But one of the first things I need to do with them is to ask them about the four first intimacies.
Okay.
So, how is your intimacy with your husband without the sexual one?
Okay.
Okay. How is your emotional intimacy with him? How is your spiritual intimacy, intellectual, and physical intimacy? First. So doesn't I'm not saying that if you have these four covered, your sex is gonna be the best one, but it's not. But it will help a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing we need to see or to ask ourselves is how are these four first with our partner. And physical intimacy could be hugs. I'm personally like really close or really intimacy with my daughters because I hug them, you know, I kiss them all day. I love to be with them. They love to be held by me, you know. So
Mm-hmm.
we are intimate on
Mm-hmm.
physically with my daughters. So um, these for intimacy, you can have them with anyone, with a friend, with a mom, with your children, with your husband too, of course, or with your partner. Um, but the sexual one, I know, is just with your partner, isn't it? But this for intimacy is something interesting too, is that you can have them with yourself too, not
Ooh.
just with someone else. So
Ooh.
yes, yes, this is amazing because there's one people I'm working with. She's from Dominican Republic, and I'm gonna give you some example really quick. She was like really struggling with taking decision of divorce.
Mm-hmm.
So we we did a lot of exercises with her. So she realized she's really strong. She realized what she wanted. She realized she like needed time to know herself, her emotions. Because sometimes she told me like, I have something in my chest. I don't know what it is. I think I have a feeling. I'm not exactly what it is. So you need to know yourself. She didn't know her emotions. So she wasn't like intimating with herself.
Okay.
So it's hard to know yourself because you have to like ask yourself things. So maybe I can say, yeah, I know myself. I'm with me all day long, but sometimes we don't ask us like questions. Questions we maybe ask a friend if we see a friend struggling with something. We ask her things, but these things we never ask them to ourselves. You know, so
Mm-hmm.
to know us better, to intimate with us. Um, yes, we have to treat us like a friend, and yeah.
Thank you. So I like how you really educated us on the different levels of intimacy because you probably can agree, like you said, by the time people are in breakdown in their marriage, it's because of just the one view of lack of sexual intimacy. But then there's so many layers really connecting, right? Because I think a lot of people, especially in this sex driven culture, there's no emotional, spiritual, intellectual, or physical intimacy for one. Sex is like just an act, right? And so for some people, that's why they can have what they call like the drive by, the one partner, one night stand. You still feeling empty on the inside, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm telling people too, like, I like how you said too, is you can be intimate with yourself. And I think sometimes a lot of people run from being with themselves. They have to be around a crowded room. They have to be around a lot because we run from being with ourselves. So that really makes a lot of sense because if I can learn to be intimate with myself, right, then I think how you described the sexual intimacy, you shared that last. You kind of took us on a journey of the sexual intimacy is not like the first thing that we do. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really rich because when you think about people that we respect, they've been married for a long time through the ups and the downs, you get to know each other on an emotional level. You get to know, the unspoken. You can read and discern if your spouse is going through. And I also believe that in a marriage, it takes two people to kind of work through some of that stuff. Because I see a lot of people do, like you said, going for a divorce, not really flushing through this stuff only to get remarried or get in another relationship, not having to learn some of this stuff that you're teaching us about, and that same core issue comes up in a new relationship. Would you agree?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're right. And
Yeah.
it's because uh, when we hear the word intimacy, well, the first thing that came, well, what used to came to my mind was sex. You know, because when we are having sex, it's literally we are in the most vulnerable moment on our day because we're naked usually. So, what could be most vulnerable than be naked? Nothing. So, we are open to this person. We are in our more, uh, moment where when we can feel or transparent. So, to to fully like um, enjoy this moment, to fully be there is so like deeply if we already go through the other intimacies. Is
Okay.
I feel like this obviously is more like for women because usually like men my husband can just see me and say, yeah, do you want to have sex, baby, and he's like ready for it, isn't it? But for us, like for us women it's different. So if he like started to asking me, "Hey, baby, how was work today?" or "How was school? What did you learn today from the book you were reading?" I
Mm-hmm.
would feel like super like loved because he
Yeah.
wants to know what I'm learning. That's emotional intimacy. Maybe
Yeah.
he doesn't have to read the same book I'm reading, but if he cares about that, we are intimated already, um, intellectually. So
Mm-hmm.
spiritually, if you believe in God, or if you don't, maybe you believe in energy, or like yoga, these things people like to do. That's amazing too. So I can share with him, with my husband, how I'm feeling spiritually, or when we go to the church and someone says something, and we are connected already. When someone in the church share their testimony, I feel connected with them. So this connection, and what else, emotionally, maybe I feel really sad and my husband asks me, hey, how are you doing, how was your day with the babies, was it hard, let me hug you. So now we is physical intimacy. Now if he started to kiss me, of course I'm gonna have sex because we already go through the intimacies that
Yes.
are before the sexual one.
Yes.
So I can be deeply there. So
Yes.
that's the power of the four intimacies that lead us deeply and in a different way to the sexual way. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much because we do have this issue where a lot of women can relate right now in the present live moment that they're not feeling the energy to have sexual intercourse with their spouse. They spouse don't know how to receive it. They feel like, hey, I'm being rejected. You have spouses saying, are you cheating on me? You have spouses, well, what more do you need me to do? I go to work, I'm providing, I'm paying the bills. And what the males need to understand, we're not making a universal assumption, but just we're just having tabletop talks. But we have to understand, like you just said, and this is not all the way true for all women, but we're just speaking from our experience that women need to feel a sense of emotional connection and not just a task of sexual intimacy, right? So if you're tired, you're juggling the bills, in our area is super hot, you over here on the freeway, you getting groceries, you fighting folks, all of that. And so your husband going to work, and some guys really miss this sometimes. Not all guys, but they feel like I'm providing in the way that I can, which is the breadwinner or whatever. And so they don't see the need for that woman emotional need because they feel like they're providing. And that's why I think that communication within the marriage comes into play for us to be okay with saying, this is what I need from you. and then that person understanding, because you will see, like right now, a lot of women, it's like, I love my husband, and the husband say, I love my wife, but a lot of energy is being pulled from her, emotionally, spiritually, intellectual, and physical, if she feel like she's carrying a lot of weight as a woman. And so to have that sexual intimacy is probably not a priority because the other needs are not being met. So that part is all empty. And so, what advice would you give to a couple that watches if they're not really being sexually intimate? That's the first thing people go to, and how they can make the marriage a little bit more stronger during these times. What advice would you give them?
What? Sorry.
Advice, tips on making the marriage more healthier right now during the post pandemic, moving forward?
Well, we have to like see the other side. I mean, for a man, isn't that easy? Like for us to talk, for example, to share our feelings, to to intimate. Like for us, it's easier to intimate with a friend. Maybe they have friends too, but it's like, hey, how are you doing? Good. And you? Good. How's work? Good. How's family? Good. They don't
Yeah.
intimate.
Yes.
The easiest way to intimate for a man is sex.
Yes. Okay.
So, so after sex, that's easier for them to intimate emotionally, spiritually, intellectually. So physically is easy to kisses and hugs is easier for some men, for some isn't. But yeah, for us is we talk a lot. We can talk for hours. My husband asked me, don't you aren't you tired to talk to your sisters all every day? And no, we have a lot of things to talk. And
Uh-huh.
he is like, yeah, I'm good. Well, how are you? I'm good. And that's it. So intimate isn't like, it's a really hard word for them. So easy, if you haven't like intimate with your husband as you wish, if you have sex, after sex, usually men are like more open because,
Aren't you sleep afterwards, girl? Ain't nobody
well,
treat
that
you
too, that too. But we can talk it. We can say, hey, I am feeling like I want to talk to you. So let's have sex and then we can talk.
okay?
Yes,
Hope
I
that
mean,
works
there's
for your couple. Because sometimes you just depends on how it go down. It's the best sleep after, right? You be
yeah,
knocked.
never.
But it's case by case, right? Yeah, it's
Yeah,
case.
but if we talk, if we said it before, he can be like, oh, okay. It's not like I'm paying you to talk to me. It's not like that, but
Okay.
it works. It's like I'm helping you to open your heart.
Okay.
So if I'm helping you to open your heart, like, I want you to help me too. So after that, if this works for you, we can say, okay, next time we talk and then we have sex. So
Okay.
that help her to feel more open to it.
Okay.
So it's like we cannot just look at our needs. So if we see the other part, if we
Okay.
see what we're seeing, so it's like, okay, let's have sex and then talk. Next time we talk and then have sex. And
Okay.
this is agreement of both getting what they want, and we want to intimate with the person we love. We want
Okay.
to feel closer to the person we love. But
Yes.
we usually have different ways to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, there are some men that are really good talking, and of course, there are women that it's hard to talk, so they prefer sex.
Mm-hmm.
Those are cases, not the average, but there are cases too.
Mm-hmm.
And so the key is to have agreements. I love
Okay.
you, you love me. I feel a lot when I talked first. And he can say, well, I feel more open to talk if we have sex.
Okay.
So, yeah, why not?
Ooh. Okay. Well, thank you. That makes a lot of sense. And I like how you said, just going with the framework of I love you, you love me. And so with that we have this common goal that we want to work things out, right? And so that means we compromise. I love how you said to understand that maybe the husband don't communicate the way we do and they
Yeah,
show up different, right?
yeah, we're totally different. As John Gray said, we are from different worlds.
We're from different worlds, baby.
Yes, they are from
Together we
Mars, we're from Venus. We don't speak the same language.
okay.
So, yeah, it's like I can say I'm tired, but I mean I'm frustrating, I'm angry, I'm sleepy, and they just heard I'm tired. And he's okay, she's tired. But no,
Right.
I have a lot more emotions. But if I share this with you, Tasha, you can say, "Oh yeah, I can see you struggling with a lot of things." You know, I can
Right.
speak the same language with you, but with men it's different.
Yeah.
So
And that's
that's
really
a really good question for God. Why we speak two different languages?
hi Sam
Once I ask
Coulter.
him.
Hi
When I see
Sam.
him, I'll ask him. Yeah.
Well, that's really good. I just go back to say sometimes we make things so complicated, but I think even with doing the work, it's just always being open to creating space to communicate and to release your truth. And so, any woman coming on here on the replay, if you are in a space right now in your marriage, your relationship, and you feeling like depleted where you're not intimate on any level, as Denai expressed, there's different forms of intimacy. There's emotional, spiritual, intellectual, physical, and then there's sexual intimacy. But a lot of times, as she explained to us, people in breakdown in their relationships, they come when that sexual intimacy is not there because that's the perceived emergency in a relationship, especially if that's how our men value the connection with their spouse. And so, yeah, I wonder how many can relate to just being empty emotionally, spiritually, intellectually, and physically empty to where it drives where I don't feel a spiritual, intimate connection because of other areas that are primary focuses that gives me the strength and the desire to connect is not there. So I think we work against ourselves, right? Like if we feel like one is better than the other, it's almost like a whole caboodle, like a whole little package
Yeah,
sometimes, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
like a table.
a
Yeah.
table. Mm-hmm. Mm. So if you guys, what advice would you give to or tips would you give to a person? I know you said you were raised, we believers, and the person that don't talk about sex because they feel like it's a mushy topic as a believer
Yeah.
and they have not been intimate with their spouse, which is a problem. And so you feel like if you connected to some kind of ministry or a spiritual belief that you're not supposed to talk about sex, you're just supposed to pray about it. What tip can you give that person with the narrow view of what sex is so that their relationship can be a little bit more healthier when it comes to intimacy? That's a huge issue, by the way.
Well, the first thing I think I'll say, sex is part of the God's plan. He gave us the gift of sex, and I think for a lot of Christian, we see sex as something sinful.
Mm,
And of course, it could be sinful, but anything could be sinful.
yeah.
Anything. So, this part of sex, I mean, sex is from God. He gave us the power of sex. It was His plan to send us to earth. And how He could do that? Through sex. So, this is a gift, and He wants us to enjoy it. I know He wants it. I know because our body was made from Him. I
Mm,
am made by His image. We are made by the image of God. aren't we? So I used to think that there were parts of my body that were sinful, or I couldn't look at them, like my vagina or my vulva. I thought these parts were bad, or I I wasn't like properly going to see them because those are dirt parts of myself. But I am myself a daughter of God. So I was made from what He is too. And I believe that we have a heavenly Mother too. So I am her image. You know, I was made from her image, as you, as all of the daughters of God. So there isn't any part of you that is bad. All the parts of your body are precious and made from a reason. The the ability of orgasm, or have an orgasm, is an ability that God put on our body. Wasn't Satan. He did anything to us. It was God who gave us the body that works perfectly. So the power of have an orgasm is from Him. So I invite you all to don't feel guilt about enjoy sex. If we start to, and this is a tip I like to share with people I work with. If you start to talk about sex with people around you, could be a friend, your mom, your sisters, whatever you want, your husband too, of course, your partner. If you start talking about sex, your brain is going to start changing the idea of sex is bad. Because if we never heard the word of sex in a good sentences, like healthy sex sentences, our brain has this idea that sex is bad, and even though we know it's not, because we all our life heard it, the word sex in a bad sentences or sinful sentences, your brain thinks something else. Yeah, you the part of your brain that you don't have access to, because we have access to the part of the brain that is thinking or reading, but there's a part of us that we are driving, and we are not even driving, we don't know where we are, because the part of the brain that is just works for us, is driving. So this part of you, we can access to small talk it, like, if you can do it every day, that would be amazing. But small talkings, like possibly talk about sex with people, with your husband, with your kids, that will help your brain to start to see the sex differently. So when you have sex, you're gonna start to enjoy sex more than you used to, because your brain now, like, it's getting the info that sex is something amazing and good. And yeah, there's a lot of resources I didn't know before, but there's a lot of Christian who talks about sex in a way that makes you like really understand. So all the content I have is in Spanish, so maybe it doesn't work for a lot of you. Because I really like want to help my Spanish speakers, um, people, but there's a lot of Christian who talk about sex too. So if you put Christian sex educators on Instagram, that would give you some people who talks about sex on this Christian, mood. So you can feel good about it. Yeah.
Good. Thank you so much. And where can they find you? Because we know the time went by really quick, but the whole goal is for us to come on here for social work table talks and really just talk about some things that are real, give a little bit of solutions, get your mind going around thinking about intimacy in a holistic framework, because we know that there's a lot of couples that are having some difficulties around sexual intimacy, and tired and fatigued and overwhelmed. And so it's really impacting marriages right now. And so, as you can see, Denai have shared that there's so many different 4 or 5 different layers to intimacy, and part of moving forward to heal through it is really understanding one another and recognizing that maybe your spouse may not be the same way we communicate with our friends as women, because we're relational beings for the most part, but really holding space and understand that our spouses may communicate differently. But just understanding the power of spiritual, emotional, physical, and intellectual intimacy, and really communicating, going in prayer as a couple, that you're united, right? You want to love on each other. Not one person should do all the heavy lifting, but sitting down in the home, which is the forefront of ministry, which is at home, and really getting clear about, where what areas do we need to communicate more, and understand our communication styles, so we can get back to what God intended about the gift of sexual intimacy. The gift, I think you talked about, it's a gift. It's a beautiful thing. For some of you guys that are believers and you really struggle with talking about that, but that there's been a barrier, I hope that you come on the 24th. We're going to have online and in-person self-care meetup where we can have this conversation offline, a safe space for us to self-care and really support one another. As you can see, God is bringing us together, whether Denai served the Spanish speaking community online and off. And so we are bridging our gifts together so we can have more connection than the segregated model. So we thank God for this space. We hope that you share this with someone else, whether they speak Spanish or English, because her platform on Instagram, it really speaks to the Spanish speaking population. As you know, she's bilingual, an amazing leader. And so I'm so glad that we connected. Any final remarks, Denai, how they can reach you? Um, Maybe we put your link down.
Yes, I think we're gonna put it here. Well, it's called Intimidad en Confianza, but I know I told you it's in Spanish, so yes, we can put the link below. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Um, but yes, it's in Spanish, but you can share with your Spanish speaker friends. And yes, we put it here.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. You guys, this has been your Table Talks, Social Work Table Talks. As usual, send us emails on topics of resources you'd like me to bring forth. A lot of you guys will get more information at the in person and online self care meetup. Make sure you register. We'll put the link down below. And remember, we are bridging the gap between social work and community. So together we can thrive, heal, and show up in a more intentional way. We hope you have an amazing day. Stay hydrated, stay motivated. Until next time, we'll see you guys later. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.